It is amazing to me that we really do pass down like stress is contagious,
Mm.
anxiety is contagious, and it almost never fails that you see an anxious child, there's an anxious parent in some way, shape, or form. Even though, I mean, none of us know what we're doing as parents. We don't. And youth leaders, we struggle as much, if not more, because we don't understand that every single home is incredibly unique with their own psychographic and demographic and context and all that kind of stuff. More and more, Chinwei, and I know this subject is near and dear to your heart. More and more, there are parents who are trying to love and lead neurodiverse and neurodivergent children. Could you speak to that? And there's a reason why this is important to you. Could you speak to how do your tools help a parent who is parenting a child who may be neurodiverse and neurodivergent?
Yeah. So if you don't mind me just sharing that thank you
Hmm.
for this question. I also want to share that this was a chapter that I had to fight for. And this is no knock on the team or the publishers because you have to make those important decisions about the content that's going to stay, the content that could be saved for another book or another resource. And for whatever reason, and I am pretty laid back, I fought hard to have this chapter, and it's because for a long time I was scared to share that I have
Hmm.
a son. His name is Braden. He's 14 and he is autistic. I wasn't
Hmm.
afraid to share that. I was afraid to speak on it with any level of authority because, as you mentioned a moment ago, I felt like I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I
Hmm.
was swimming upstream. I was consulting with a lot of different people. I'm a mental health therapist. I've been doing this for over 18 years, but I did not specialize in autism or ADHD. And
Hmm.
I had to learn a lot on the fly and through the help of the Holy Spirit.
Hmm.
So I didn't feel like I could really put it in a book or talk about it on a podcast until God said, you're ready, right? I don't
Hmm.
call the qualified,
Hmm.
right? I
Hmm.
qualify who I call. So this is probably my most personal chapter. I think I start off by saying something like, let me tell you about my C-section.
Hmm. I think you did. Yeah. I'm like, well, there's a detail I did not know.
Which nobody, which I don't know that I think they're like, you know what, we're done fighting with her.
Yeah. Yeah. We relinquish the fight. Okay, Chinwei, just tell everybody everything.
We're just gonna let it go, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
But before you dive in, is there a different, could you explain the difference between neurodivergent, neurodiverse, and highly sensitive? Because I
yeah,
think that's an interesting distinguisher too.
absolutely. So neurodiverse is all of us. Like
Mm,
our brains are created uniquely. We are all uniquely wired. That's God's design, right?
mm,
And so that to me is just a big term that says that everybody's brain is going to operate differently. Neurodivergent goes even a step further in terms of just sort of looking at the population of people, and most people sort of fall into what scientists and medical doctors would say is a normative way of viewing the world. About 20% of kids are considered neurodivergent as a whole. And that's an umbrella term that just means that this percentage of kids and adults um, do diverge from the norm, which I've got to
mm,
say is problematic in and of
mhm,
itself.
mhm,
We don't have time to really get into that. I wish that weren't the term, but that's what we have. And it does take us a step further in recognizing that kids whose brains are wired even more uniquely than the rest of the population will experience emotions more intensely. So, highly sensitive is yet another sort of subclinical indicator for a smaller percentage of the child and adult population that feels things even more deeply. So I shared that illustration of walking into the room and a bunch of people are anxious and you're going to pick up on that. A child who is highly sensitive will pick up on it as soon as they get out of the car.
Mm.
And
It's
they
almost like spidey senses.
it is, and it's a gift, and I wish people would think
Mhm.
of it that way. Um, but it can also be challenging for them, right? Even something
Mhm.
like somebody chewing can be very disruptive. A label or a tag on a shirt. Um, if a teacher is like, okay, try that again, and the teacher really has no ill intent at all in her tone, that child may perceive, gosh, did I do something wrong? Like I'm
Mhm.
trying to get it
Mhm.
right. So I break it down a little bit more in the book, but really the whole idea of including this chapter is because parents and caregivers and leaders kept asking me for it.
Yeah.
I was open about my journey with my child, and sometimes even when I didn't say it on stage, um, people would come up and say,
Mhm.
"Okay, so how does this fit for my child who's autistic, my child who has ADHD, my child who's highly sensitive?" So it really did feel like God was calling me to be very specific about strategies. So the whole
Mhm.
idea is working with the nervous system, not against it. Again, understanding a neurodivergent child's experience. For example, kids with ADHD and kids who are on the autism spectrum often experience what's called sensory overload. Again, you're chewing too loud, the lights are too bright. My son cannot deal with fluorescent lighting. He actually has problems when the blinds are, you know, how you can turn the blinds down or kind of up and they're still closed. He has a very specific ratio. And he will let you know when the blinds aren't at that ratio. He doesn't like shadows coming in. And so it's really about understanding them and helping your child to understand themselves. Something else that comes up for kids who are highly sensitive and kids who are neurodivergent is this idea of emotional flooding. So again, they're able to pick up on the energy, the emotions of folks in the room, peers in the room. And so, what looks like defiance, I want to say this specifically to ministry leaders, what looks like defiance or rebelliousness may actually be a stress response. Um,
Wow.
so
Wow.
just being mindful of that, and then providing strategies that honor their nervous system's unique abilities. So, sensory
Mhm.
breaks, snack breaks,
Mhm.
engaging in very clear communication, helping the child to recognize their own emotional triggers. I say to my son, Braden, who has limited language skills, okay, I'm noticing that you're rocking a little bit more on a scale of 0 to 10. How high are we getting to that point where you need to get a break? Are we at a
Mhm.
5 or are we at a 9? And he'll say 10. It's like, okay, we're leaving Macy's right now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's